Good evening, students. This is Professor Estrada. Today is Thursday, October 30th. I'm opening up the week 3 folder for you to view. And if you're viewing this right on schedule, thank you. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up so that way you can see this video in regards to the week 3, part 1 and part 2 section. On the homepage of Brightspace, left side tab, I will always have the announcements. It's just a really good review of what is expected of that week, any important due dates, anything to do with graded work. I know it is a lot of information, but just go ahead and take your time reading those. Sometimes I throw in extra credit opportunities within the emails themselves. My right side tab is my contact information at any point during this time. If you just need to find me, please be sure to email me using your student account at aestrada@hillcollege.edu. And one thing that I want to point out, as I've done before, is while the work to do, this calendar right here, or its module, and the calendar may get you to that specific assignment, it doesn't give you the context for it within the week or its section. But this is also important for a lot of students to look at. It does give you what to do, but it doesn't give you specific things. It does add the extra days at times on late work, and as we should know by now, I do allow late work, but usually our opening time for a folder is a Monday morning to a Sunday night at 11:59. But those added days are in between, and I do deduct points for each day late. So always, if you have to, refer to the syllabus itself and or the weekly folder section, so that way they tell you what's going on within the folder. And as you can see, I went ahead and opened up the week 3 folder. That way you can look at what's inside. I scroll in and I have to click on the actual module itself for the week 3 folder. This is week 3 folder part 1. I'm going to go ahead and go through these things so that way you have them and you can see how I got to the specific things. On the right side tab, it should open up that as a preview within the folder. What you're about to see is in there. The week 3 part 1 lecture slides. You have a couple of stories in here, and if I could find the story as an audio, I also included it. So within this section, you're going to be looking at A Clean Well Lighted Place by Ernest Hemingway. Its audio is also included. Barn Burning by William Faulkner, text and audio included, and the audio is read by Deborah Winger. We also have The Storm by Kate Chopin. Remember her from week 1 or week 2. I apologize for that. We have not read her before. But this is also really good because you do read her later in the semester. I do apologize for that. But this is your first time seeing her. I hope that you enjoy her story. It's about passion. It's about a one night that anything could happen. As a married woman, does she take on her lover? Or does she keep to herself if he appears out of nowhere? I do apologize for that. But I was really excited about that story. And then we also have a discussion board found within this section. It's called Discussion Board Number 5, Tone and Diction. We also have the included resource as the word count link if you need the resource to count your words or count your sentences. We also have the extra credit opportunity number 1 as stated in the syllabus. Now, many teachers may not allow or give you extra credit opportunities, but I do. And then this one just says that you can earn up to 7 points on your lowest minor grade. Your minor grades can be anything from quizzes to discussion boards to anything like that. They're away from the essays themselves, but unfortunately you cannot use a late pass on this, but it is included within a week 3 due date. Okay. You're also going to be uploading your essay in its specific folder. And you're also going to be completing the Unit 1 exam. It's a comprehensive assessment over the stories found in week 1 through week 2. Notice that the week 3 part 1 online folder content is due Sunday, November 9th at 11:59. And while I was showing you earlier with the content calendar, the to-do list, it does give you those extra due dates, but it doesn't account that they are considered late. But always refer to the syllabus or the Sunday due date. Okay. Important note that the essay 1 is due no later than Wednesday, November 5th. I do deduct points after each day late. This will be found in this folder. In here, its module will be found in here. I just simply scroll down its module. So it does have to be able to be submitted there. If you run into any problems at this point, please let me know. We can find another method for you to submit your essay, but it does have to be Microsoft Word or Google Docs or PDF compatible that I'm able to look at it and download it and grade it. Okay, but it does say I do not accept email attachments or web links in lieu of this essay. It has to be submitted within that module. Okay, the unit exam that you're going to be taking during this week at any time will be available November 3rd. Notice that today is October 30th, so I opened up a couple of days early. Normally, the class opens up on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock, so today is Thursday, October 30th, so I opened up at least 3 days in advance for you to look at it and complete it. So it says that it's open during that specific time, but it does close November 9th, so given the fact that I opened up a little bit early, I hope that you're able to complete it within its due date. Ensure that you have a good connection for this. It does give you a time limit of an hour. It gives you a time limit of 90 minutes. So an hour and 30 minutes. And make sure that you, if you have to, use both attempts that's given to you. I do take the highest attempt, but within an exam or an essay, as many of you notice, I have to go back and grade any manual responses. The computer automatically generates and gives you a grade for any multiple choice or true false that are found within the assignment. But I do have to go back and grade at any point. If you take both attempts, I do take the highest grade. Okay, but after its closing due date of November 9th, I do not go back and open it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up the week 3 day 1 lecture slides so that way you can look at them. Okay, this is the week 3 day 1 lecture slides. It says week 3 part 1, recap of what last week was, some important notes, and some midweek homework. So during the week, just make sure that you look at some of these stories in regards to the Thursday or the part 2 folder. There is a continuation lecture of tone and diction and a preview of what's already in this week's folder, which is week 3, part 1, and to begin or complete the unit 1 exam. So it does stretch out the entire week of week 3. This is what you looked at in regards to last week, the mini lecture of Narrator and Cause, the reading of Cathedral by Raymond Carver, discussion board number 4, Narrator and Cause, and you're also asked to study and look over the stories in week 2 and week 3, week 1 and week 2 in preparation for this week or week 3 unit 1 exam. Okay, and as a reminder, I do take and accept late work. I just take and deduct points per each day late. After 4 days, it results in a 0. Okay, so these are the stories within the week 3 part 1 folder, but let's go ahead and continue with some important notes. The essay 1 will be due on Wednesday, November 5th at 11:59. Failure to not turn in by November 7th at 11:59 will result in a 0 as stated in the syllabus. You can use a late pass for this essay. It just has to be sent to me the day before it's due. So Tuesday, November 4th at 10 p.m. You have to email me so that I can confirm it and I write it down in my records, and then you get an email back from me within that time. Okay, this module for this essay will be found in this week's folder, and I'll show you where. Okay, and this is the content almost word for word as if I'm clicking on the folder itself. We have a clean, well lighted place as an audio and text, barn burning as an audio and text, the storm as a text and audio, the discussion board, tone and diction, the unit 1 exam, and then the extra credit opportunity. Okay, so let's continue our lecture from week 1 and week 2 going into week 3 of elements of a short story. And we're going to be looking at tone and diction this time. And so the definition of tone, or what tone is a piece of writing that refers to the attitude of the author or speaker about his or her subject within the audience. Just as speakers change tone of voice to express themselves, writers do as well. Since we as the readers or audience can't hear the tone in the written piece, we have to read it and make some inferences. We do this by looking closely at the author's choice of diction, imagery, details, and sentence structure. Tone is detected through style and diction. Okay, we also look at diction in itself as a word choice and the sentence structure that makes up a distinct tone of voice. So what is diction? Diction refers to the writer's or speaker's distinctive vocabulary style and expression. It's their choice of words, their phrases, their sentence structure, how they write, and it's distinctive towards one person to another. And we see this as a difference between how Kate Chopin writes within her stories and how Ernest Hemingway writes within his. Okay? And then reminder for their exam, whenever you get to it, relax, you got this. You'll be allowed 2 attempts to take it. It will not be made available after it closes. So November 3rd or October 30th if you're looking at this early through November 9th. Okay, so let's look at these stories. And the first one is a PDF. Well, all of them are PDFs, but the first one is A Clean Well Lighted Place by Ernest Hemingway. I also included an audio if you need to look at that. Some people find it much more smoother and easier to follow as they're reading along. Barn Burning by William Faulkner. You might have to zoom in for that one. Take your time with that one. And his audio. And The Storm by Kate Chopin. And an audio. So after you read those stories, there is a discussion board labeled discussion board number 5, tone and diction. And it does tell you that after you read those stories to go ahead and answer the following questions. Some of them may be in regards to all the stories. Some of them may be simplified to just answer specifically about one. So this one just says, question number 2 is only about A Clean Well Lighted Place. Question number 4 is only about barn burning. And then question 5, it says, refer to all the text. If it asks you for specific word count, make sure to adhere to that. If it asks you for a single post, just always refer to the instructions. It says for this one, no word count is necessary. Just make sure that you are abiding by each specific question if it's asking for 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. And then step 2, make sure to respond to at least 2 to 3 students in this amount of words, 150 to 200 words each. When you think about it, that's only like 4 sentences per each student. You can do that. And it's very simple just to count the words using the word count link. This is our due date for this discussion board. To go ahead and look at it, I'm just going to go ahead and put a tester right here. Test, test, test. That way, everyone's able to know that it was being written during the video. Go ahead and click post. That way I have it. I do have the word count link right here in case you need to look at it. It does help you count your words. Many people said that it's helpful if they write it on a Word doc or in here and just copy and paste it into the discussion board, but it does not save here. So if you're writing all of it out really nicely here, what if something happens and it doesn't save? You might have to go back and start it, but it is a good help to count your sentences. I also have right here an extra credit opportunity for you. Go ahead and fix this. This extra credit opportunity assignment will allow you points towards a minor grade. It tells you its due date, and unfortunately for extra credit, you cannot submit late. It just tells you that you're going to have to create a Word doc or a document compatible format to answer these questions. If there's a text box within this module, you are more than welcome to open it up and submit it there. But it does ask you the following question that within a paragraph of about 7 to 10 sentences to adhere to making sure that if it needs to be indented, making sure that it is capitalized and that you have proper sentences to answer the following questions. What are some positive factors that you have learned while being in a college class? What are some negative setbacks that you have experienced or recognized during timed deadlines? And as a reflection piece, discuss what you could have done more to prepare or what you're wanting to improve in regards to any college class. And it gives you a due date, but extra credit opportunities cannot be turned in late. But if there's a text box that you would prefer to write this in, if you cannot find the module, you're more than welcome to do that. But at any point, if you're having trouble submitting things, please reach out to me. Okay? This is the module where you will put your essay 1. It does have instructions for you. So it does have right here, this is the instructor side, so you're seeing it as this point of view. This is where you'll submit your essay. Ensure that it's accessible or viewable to me so that I can have it. If you're having trouble, please let me know. You have to let me know early on in case we have to find another method on submitting it. But for your convenience, I also have the instructions right here in case you need to go back and view them. Okay? And then you also have the Unit 1 exam. And you're going to see the simple instructions right here if I can manage. It tells you its due date. It tells you that you still have those 4 extra days to turn it in, but I do count off points late. It tells you its due date. It tells you it only covers the stories found in week 1 through 2, that you have 2 attempts and that you have about 90 minutes to complete them. But ensure that you have great internet connection, but it does stay in the syllabus that after I close it, you won't be able to go back in. Okay. So I'm going to take a moment, and then I'm going to continue into the week 3 part 2 folder. This is the week 3 part 2 folder. It tells you what's in the folder as I click on it. It's got a bunch of stuff in there, a bunch of content, but great content for us to look at. And I wanted us to take time to look at what's inside of them so that way you're not overwhelmed. So going into the week 3 part 2 folder, there are our lecture slides. There is a quiz pertaining to only the stories found in the week 3 day 1. You're reading another story, the parable of the prodigal son. You're probably going to go back and listen to the audio if it's more comfortable for you. There is also an assignment that I would like you to go ahead and complete in regards to this story. I also included in here, because we're just finishing up and wrapping up Essay 1, please take your time between this week to go in and submit Essay 1, because this folder contains Essay 2 instructions. And with any essay, just because the instructions are found within this essay, just because the essay instructions are found within this folder does not mean that it's due within that folder. But I included the JSTOR, the Purdue OWL, the Hill College database, and the Essay 2 instructions, which I will go over here in a minute. Okay, it tells you that the week 2 online content away from the essay is due on this day. So as I scroll down within this folder, it does tell you that you were simply given the instructions for this essay. It's not due until November 19th. It'll be found for a module submission in the week 5 part 1 folder. Okay. And at this point, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on the lecture slides so that way you have them. These are the lecture slides for the week 3 part 2 section. It tells you a to-do list, recap of week 3 part 1, a couple of friendly reminders. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in like this, that way you can see it, and hopefully we can see it a little bit like that. Okay. I think I'll do it better the other way. Okay. And then there's an introduction to the Essay 2 and what that is, and the continuation lecture of theme and style. So we're looking at the week 3 part 1 slides as a recap. These are the things that were found within that folder. We had a discussion board, the continuation of the Unit 1 exam, and the essay, if you're looking at this on specific days. Okay. We are going to be introduced to the essay instructions first, and then after the instructions, I do take a moment, and then we'll go into the continuation lecture of what the lecture of literary elements are. So we're shifting over here into what the essay instructions are, or just the beginning and introduced of what essay we're going to be looking at. So our second essay is a critical analysis essay. I know it's a lot. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not overwhelming you. So our second essay is a critical analysis essay, and here in a minute we'll look at its instructions, but we're going to be looking at what it does. So an effective writer usually uses the critical analysis method in their work and looks at material while evaluating it. We're looking at understanding the material and responding to it. Very similar to comparing and contrasting an essay. So now what we're looking at is we're going to be looking at how a specific source discusses your story and what elements are found in it. Okay, so what is a critical analysis essay? This type of essay requires you to examine the given story and identify the relationship to your thesis. It can be used as a tool to evaluate idea elements. It can be an approach for the entire essay or even a paragraph to others. A critical analysis essay looks to make by claims by others and ask the question, what does the article, the source that you're going to be looking at, say about the story chosen? What does a critical analysis essay do? This type of essay will focus on 3 things. You're going to be given or writing the summary of the text, one of the short stories that you pick, 2 main literary traits that you're analyzing or writing about, and what is the claim or argument summary found in the article you're using. So you're going to find an article or source that talks about your said story, explore 2 traits that are found in that story, and just discuss it. And if you can, discuss if you agree or disagree with what the article may say about your story. So for example, for reading The Storm, and an observer or critic or an article may claim that The Storm is about something totally different that you disagree with. Let's talk and explore that. So whenever you structure this essay, continuing with any essay in general, is to establish your topic to shape your essay. Since you're choosing the short story that you want, what are you doing within the essay is finding a source that explains it or explores it. Your source will be the only source that you use, so make sure that it's a good one and become familiar with it. If it doesn't work for your essay so far, continue looking at other ones. And these are steps within the writing process that we look at for this specific essay. You're choosing your topic. You get to choose the short story. You're going to be looking at a source that discusses it at large. Maybe consider making an outline, whether in class or assigned or online. Work on drafts. Make sure that you pull quotes from your source to back up your thesis. Create a works cited page and then turn it in. We also can consider looking at helpful linking words instead of they said, or the author stated. They get redundant, so let's look at other words that might consider being of use when it comes to the actual source and what these authors have said. Does the author believe? Does the author find? Does the author acknowledge? Noticing these words, they really do help us instead of taking the word said and using it multiple times. Whenever we consider structuring our essay, we also have to look at how you quote sources within, how you use sources and how you quote them within your essay. So we're looking at if you agree or disagree within the format or the source, what key elements are considered, and looking how you use quotes within your essay. Direct quotes in an essay would have the speaker's exact words placed in quotation marks. Use direct quotes when a quote is powerful, strong, and makes an impact. Indirect quotes have no quotation marks because they're not the exact wording, but they still being cited within your essay. Remember the rule, 70% of the essay should be your own words, while 30% can be quotes. And I zoomed in on this beautiful quote right here, this beautiful module, and it says that direct quotes with quotation marks, indirect quotes with no quotation marks, direct quotes with the first person pronoun, and indirect quotation, and how those are used interchangeably within an essay. We look at the works cited page as the last page of an essay. We're only going to be using our said story and our specific source, so we're only going to be needing 2 or specifically 1 source for our works cited page, and it does tell you what a works cited page ought to look like. And then now, whenever you get the chance, open up the weekly folder to look more in depth at finding an article within your essay instructions. Place close attention to where those can be found and use those sources provided, and if not, others as they are shown. Okay, and then now as we go into that, I'm going to try to real quick pull up the essay instructions so that way you see what I'm looking at. But for this essay, you're going to be exploring the JSTOR database link, an excellent database that is academic and scholarly. And if you type in the author's name or the short stories, they are in fact exceptionally well in finding those for you. We're also going to be looking at the Purdue OWL website. The Purdue OWL website is a website that I use within my 1301 course, but it's also relevant to the 1302 course in regards to why we use MLA, why it's structured, citing quotes. I simply pulled up the website right here The left side tab will tell you how things are cited. Anything that you can think of could be cited within the following format. It tells you what a website looks like. It tells you how a sample works cited paper looks like. It shows you how citations look like and what we can use for those. So you may consider looking at that if you need help citing. I also included the website for the Hill College online databases. These are the Hill College databases that we are in partnership with. JSTOR itself is its own online database. So we understand that databases are just online library collections of novels, journals, books, audios, magazines, what have you. But these are online databases that we have access to using our student and instructor accounts. Many of these are well informed. Bloom's Literature, Academic One File or Gale, and EBSCOhost are excellent sources to find documents or articles or journals about your specific story or author. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to open up the Essay 2 instructions because I just simply talked about it in the lecture. So now we're going to go into what its specific instructions are. So Essay 2 is a critical analysis essay. These are your instructions and overview for it. It says for the second essay, you will use text or stories found only in the week 3 through week 5 part 2 folders and draft an essay which focuses on the specifics. And look at an article, a review or a claim, and analyze it. So in short, this essay should be evident of 3 things. What is the summary of that specific story? Consider your audience if we haven't read this before. How would you explain it to that specific person? What are 2 main literary traits that you're analyzing or writing about? And what is the claim found from the source that you're going to be using for this essay? Now, this sounds like it's structured really differently, but I do have an outline that you are more than welcome to use. And the objective or purpose for this is to look at literary traits found within the folders that we've used. So you're going to be looking specifically at tone, diction, theme, style, irony, moral, symbol, genre, the void, and imagery, and other elements by researching how they're used. This can be done by integrating the source by looking at how it supports or disregards your claim. You're going to be looking at your audience and consider them. The audience is the readers of the classroom. You're going to be looking at the topic and describe it as needed or introducing it to them as something that they've never been introduced to before. And the requirements for this essay is that it has to be typed out and printed and submitted online. This is an essay that will need to be turned in as an electronic copy in Brightspace within the week 5 part 1 folder. That is where the module will be at for this essay. You'll be uploading this essay into Brightspace, and I won't accept email attachments or web links. I have to have it within the Brightspace module for me to consider it and to look at it and view it for a grade. This essay will need to include an interesting title, not just Essay 2. There's no need for a title or cover page. Just make sure that you adhere to the essay requirements. The proper MLA works cited page will need at least 3 to 5 direct quotes or paraphrases pulled from the quote, the source itself, or the story. So at large from both, just use however many to fulfill those requirements. Times New Roman size 12 for this essay. Make sure that it's double spaced in 1-inch margins. I haven't had students have questions about the margins, but if it looks iffy, just let me know and we'll see what we can do in between the time that it is submitted and the time that you are working on it. The essay linked for this essay must be at least 2 to 2.5 pages of content. The works cited page does not count as content. Make sure that you have a heading in the left-hand corner, your name first and last, the course name and section, and the instructor name, my name. And if you need to remember, it is right here, English 1302, section 82. Okay. This essay will consist of a works cited page. Failure to not have the works cited page as you are needing a source will deem the essay unacceptable and I will give you a 0. Okay. So let's look at the source requirements. Okay. So the research article website that you're going to find for this assignment can be found in the Hill College Library database or JSTOR. your source must either come from an article found in an academic journal. Please make sure that it's 2005 or older, or a website. So you can use a website just as long as it ends in .org, .gov, or .edu. Do not use a website ending .com. Using a .com may result in large points being deducted from your essay. So note, this is an online class. Other databases or sources that you may have access to outside of Hill College are more than acceptable to me. Just make sure to immediately let me know where you're pulling that source from, if it's from another database outside of Hill College, so that I may verify it immediately. Okay? And then just to go over a little bit of MLA, we're going to be looking at a works cited page at the end of our essay. And it just shows you a general overview of what an MLA page looks like. For the majority of all students, you should already have some common knowledge of what a works cited page is. But if you don't, the Purdue OWL website, which is found in this week's folder, but also right here, shows you what a website looks like. So a works cited page gives credit to a source like a website, a book, or journal, and it tells you where those things are found in a specific format. Okay, and this is just a screenshot of what a works cited page looks like. It says you're more than welcome to cite the stories as well, but the primary or the only source that I'm looking at is the journal, the article that you are using for the essay. Okay. And then if you go to this website, I clicked on it and it's just like a step-by-step guide on how I found specific sources. It says to use this, you're just going to click on that. This is the Hill College database library website. It just tells you all the beautiful databases that we have. You're more than welcome to click on any of those. Gale Literary Resource Center, EBSCO Bloom's Literature, they're all really great websites. Databases, I'm sorry, but JSTOR is its own database, but I do show you on here how to get to specific ones. So like, for example, if you're going to go to JSTOR as a database, you're just making sure that you're writing in the story, the author name, or a specific literary element, and you're pulling it up. It does show you within JSTOR that if you're filtering out, make sure that it's older than 2007. So 2008, 2009, just make sure that you're not pulling a source that's 1985 or 1970. And looking through JSTOR, the reason why I like it is because it does give you the option that whenever you pull up a specific source, notice that if I typed in The Storm by Kate Chopin right here, it does pull up specific ones. You do have to filter out, but it gives us these buttons right here. And when you click on the Cite button for JSTOR, sorry, I'm going a little ahead of myself. You can filter out on the left side tab how those look like, but you want to make sure that it's a journal article. It does tell you whenever it was written. It tells you specific things. But when you click on the Cite button in JSTOR, I don't know if the other ones have it or not, it does go ahead and cite the version that you will need for your works cited page. And we know that the works cited page is found at the end of our essay. So for JSTOR, whenever you're looking at the version, we're looking at the MLA version of citing this. So it already has it right here. And all you would have to do is copy and paste that into your works cited page. Okay, and it does give you different versions. But I also even go in and word for word, you're almost able to look at how to cite things. I even include this within the instructions. It says, for example, if you're using an online article found in a journal, that you're more than welcome to adhere to the following citation guide for it. We also understand that if it is an internet source, please include the date that it is accessed. Okay? So it also has it right here. For the use of a page on a website, also include that as well. So if it's an online source at the end of your citation, please make sure that you show when it was accessed. So accessed, it would be the date, the month, and the year. Okay. I also include very helpful information right here. It also says that you will need to look at least 3 to 5 examples of quotes pulled in from the story or the source itself. Okay. And then using quotes, I also give a little bit of information right here. You're more than welcome to look at it and review it. And then it says, for advice and suggestions, first look at the short story that you're going to need to use for your essay. Familiarize yourself with it, and then proceed to think about what type of article that you're going to need, one from the internet or one from the Hill College Library database. So you are welcome to use something that is not from the database. You just have to be very careful in looking at a website that is .com. Not .com, .gov, .org, or .edu, not .com. If you're using .com, I take away largely points. Okay? If needed, just print your sources so that way you're looking at highlighting or looking at quotes that you may need to go back in and look at. I have a rubric right here that shows you how I'm going to be grading this essay. Okay? I also have right here a extremely helpful outline for this essay. So it does require work, it does require effort and research, but let's look at this outline in itself so that way it does help you on how to write it. So paragraph 1, again, everyone writes differently, but you're more than welcome to take this and fill it in with your own. Paragraph 1 is the introduction paragraph. Introduce the text that you're going to be looking at thoroughly and look at the 2 traits that you're analyzing. So the story, the summary of the story, and the traits. Your thesis sentence will need to be focused on the primary objective. What is the work or the story, and what are you trying to demonstrate? Paragraph 2, you can go in and what is the work? What is the summary of the story? In short, what is the happening in the story for someone who has not read it before? Okay. Paragraph 3, what are 2 main literary traits that you will analyze, write about within this short story? So you're going to explore those traits, even if they're not found within the article. Explore them to the best of your ability. This paragraph can focus on one trait or both traits, but you will need to use at least overall 3 to 5 examples of quotes for your essay. Paragraph 4, you can continuing with more paragraphs, but as your leisure, write in the format that you use. So as you go into these paragraphs, you can continue with that. But then paragraph 4 or 5, or wherever you're at, look at the source itself that you used. What is the claim, the argument, or the summary found within that article that you're using? So the article itself can be specifically about the author who wrote the story, because it somehow should talk about the story, or the story itself. An article pulled from a university that talks about Kate Chopin's The Storm, or an article that talks about the themes in Hemingway's work, especially A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. Okay, why or why not do you agree with this article, claim, or website? This paragraph is where you look deeper within the article. What does the author state about it? Okay, and then conclude. So these are the stories that you are going to only pick one. One of these stories is what you're going to be talking about within your essay, and then 2 traits, whether they're found in the story or the source itself, and then a source. So let's look at these stories. So only pick one of these. The Storm, A Clean, Well-Lighted Place, Barn Burning, The Parable of the Prodigal Son, The Gift of the Magi, The Lottery, Harrison Bergeron, The Necklace, The Story of an Hour, Young Goodman Brown, or A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. And again, the due date is Wednesday, November 19th at 11:59. It says that the essays can still be submitted per each day late, but the last day that I take this essay is November 21st. So in conclusion, you're going to be looking at one of these stories, just one of these stories. You are going to look at traits such as tone, diction, theme, style, irony. So any one of these any 2 of these with your story, and you're going to be writing about it. But also pull in a source, an article from a scholarly journal or a website that discusses it. So I have had many students say, does the website itself have to talk about the author, the story? Why can't I find those traits? But I like the source. Okay, so still talk about the story, still talk about the elements, but then pull the source in to discuss and evaluate how well it's read or how well it's written. The source itself doesn't have to explain the text or your literary elements as long as they are explored by you within your essay. So paragraph 2, 3, 4 can specifically be about the traits, but then the continuing paragraphs can be about the source itself. Okay. So I introduced the essay instructions right here, and I'm going to go back in to my lecture slides. Okay. And as we continued being introduced to simply the instructions for the essay, we looked at the essay instructions overall. So let's continue with the elements of the short story. Okay. So the elements of the short story that we're looking at this week is theme and style. So what is theme? Theme is a life lesson, a meaning, a moral, a message about life or human nature that is communicated by literary work. In other words, theme is the story that teaches the readers, is what the story teaches the readers. The theme in a story is its underlining message or big idea. In other words, what critical belief about life is the author trying to convey. Okay, so sometimes our themes in literature can be any of the following: judgment, survival, peace, war, love, deception, suffering, circle of life, good versus evil, the coming of age, or heroism. We see these all the time. And then style. Every author has his or her own style that they use. They use wording, they use structure, they use tone and diction to make their stories individual. And we've come to see that differently as how Kate Chopin may read or write her stories in regards to other people, like Godfather Death or Cathedral or Why I Live at the P.O. Style in literature is a literary element that describes the ways that the author uses words, the author's words choice, their structure, the figurative language. All of this encompasses how a writer would use work. We look at fiction in regards to style. We look at diction, sentence structure, phrasing, dialogue, how they incorporate style. Okay. Don't forget to read The Parable of the Prodigal Son. Okay. So continuing into the folder, the lecture slides, quiz 3. After you read those 3 stories, there is the Parable of the Prodigal Son text that I would like you to read, and a audio. So within this specific folder, there is a quiz about the week 3 day 1 stories. So you're going to have to go back and remind yourself what those were. And we're going to go ahead and click on those instructions so that way you can see them and say, oh my gosh, yes, thank you for reminding me. So the instructions for this is simply this. So you're going to be looking at the instructor side of this real quick if it allows me. It's saying before you take this, make sure that you read the stories only found in the week 3 day 1. You get 2 attempts at this and it's 60 minutes long. Make sure that you read those stories. Those stories, just so that we're familiar with them, are The Storm, Barn Burning, and A Clean Well-Lighted Place. Okay? And then the story found in the week 3 day 2 folder. So the story found in the week 3 day 2 folder is The Parable of the Prodigal Son. And there's a PDF format right here. You are more than welcome to read along in the audio that I've provided for you right here. But as you read this story, there is an assignment that I will need you to complete within this folder. Okay? And so the assignment, I want to say it is a doc that you will need to go back and open up and recreate as your own. Yes. So it is an assignment that you will need to go back and copy your own answers with your own version of this doc. If it allows you a text box, you are more than welcome to do that. So I included the assignment right here as a PDF and Word doc, and I'm going to go ahead and open that up so that way you see it. And we can explore the Parable of the Prodigal Son. So I'm waiting for it to be downloaded so that we can view it. Might take a while. The due date for this is Sunday, November 9th. And then it does tell you the calendar due date and what it is. Okay, so here's a PDF. After you read The Parable of the Prodigal Son, I would like you to go back in and complete this document. You may have to go back and make your own version. You can answer just these and go back and upload it. But it's just answering questions, very different or even similar to what discussion board questions will look like. And I would like you to answer those questions for me. Really good questions regarding the Parable of the Prodigal Son. Okay. I also included the essay 2 instructions right here. So real quick, an overview. Week 3, part 2 folder. We're looking at the quiz 3 lecture slides. The week 3, day 2 lecture slides. The quiz 3 stories. The Pair of the Prodigal Son text, its audio. The assignment for it. The database for JSTOR. A couple of resources. And the essay instructions. And know that the essay is not due at any time during this week. I'm simply giving you the instructions for it. And at any point, if you have any questions, let me know.